The town of Gravenhollow had always been too quiet for Lilith Rain. Tucked between black pine forests and fog-draped cliffs, it looked like something from a half-forgotten dream, one of those dreams that made your skin crawl when you woke. The wind here never whispered. It howled, and tonight, it screamed her name. She walked home alone, boots crunching over frost-kissed leaves. Streetlights flickered overhead. One by one, they died out behind her. Lilith paused and looked back. Nothing. No footsteps. No sound. But her chest ached, as if something watched, as if something waited. She clutched the old pendant around her neck, a thin shard of crystal her mother had told her never to take off. It pulsed with a faint warmth, like a heartbeat. Like a warning. She exhaled. Get a grip, Lilith. But even she didn't believe herself anymore. For weeks, something had been off. She saw him in her dreams, a figure made of shadow and fire, eyes like molten rubies, always standing at the edge of her vision. He never spoke. He just stared, and she'd wake with her sheets damp, her breath shallow, her pulse roaring like thunder. Her friends laughed when she told them. Too many horror books, they'd say. But this wasn't fiction. It was her blood, her skin, her life. And now, she felt it again. A ripple in the air. A drop in temperature. And then, a voice. Rough. Deep. Like thunder cracking against stone. You shouldn't be out here, not tonight. She spun. A man stood beneath the arch of the alley, tall, broad, and cloaked in shadow. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stared. She took a step back. Who are you? The man stepped into the light. And Lilith's breath caught in her throat. His eyes. Red, not metaphorically, not glowing. Blood red, burning from within. His skin was pale like marble, but warm with some kind of internal flame. His black hair fell in disheveled waves across his forehead. His face, too perfect to be real, looked carved from something ancient. But it was his presence that made her freeze. Not fear, recognition. She'd seen him before, in her dreams. You're not real, she whispered. He tilted his head slightly, voice roughened with restraint. And yet here I am. Run, some voice in her head screamed. But her body refused. He took another step forward, and the ground beneath her cracked faintly, as if the world itself trembled under his weight. Stay back. Her pendant flared suddenly, bright white, and the man flinched, hissing through his teeth like it burned him. He staggered, grabbed his chest, and for a single, terrifying moment, he lost control. His eyes widened, his irises expanded with black. His hands curled into claws. The air around him warped with heat and hunger. He looked at her like he might devour her whole. And then, he turned away, cursing under his breath in some language that made the wind shudder. I didn't come here to hurt you, he growled, voice raw. But I'm close. Too close. You shouldn't have that effect on me. What are you? She asked. He looked back at her, shoulders tense, fists clenched, every muscle in his body fighting something invisible. His answer was a whisper of agony. A demon, who can't control himself around you. She wasn't supposed to look at him like that. With wide, terrified eyes, and something else behind them. Curiosity, recognition, pull. Azazel had known many looks across centuries, worship, fear, lust, hatred. But never that softness. And it shattered something inside him. He turned away from her, teeth clenched, nails digging into his palms hard enough to bleed black fire. His breath came in short, violent bursts. Not from exhaustion, from restraint. The girl, no, the woman, Lilith Rain, had just ignited every buried instinct in his demon blood. The smell of her had driven him mad. Like incense, like lightning, like holy fire burning through him from the inside. His reactions were worse tonight. More volatile, more unpredictable. His skin had cracked. His shadows had risen. And he'd nearly shifted into something he couldn't come back from. Because she stood too close. Because she looked at him like she saw him. Not just the demon, but the man underneath. A demon, who can't control himself around you. He shouldn't have said it. He never said things like that. Words were dangerous. Admission, even more so. And the worst part? She hadn't run. Lilith's voice reached him again, hesitant but clear. Then why are you here? He didn't answer. He couldn't. If she knew the truth, if she knew what was written in the cursed prophecy sealed beneath the courts of wrath, she'd never look at him with anything but terror again. Still, her voice pressed on, brave despite the way her hands trembled at her sides. You've been following me, haven't you? He met her eyes. Fire roared in his chest. And for a brief moment, he lost the war with himself. Every night since your blood awakened, he growled. Every time you dreamt of me, I was there. She took a step back. So it's real. He saw the flicker of memory cross her face, the dreams, the fire, the way her skin had flushed when she woke. Azazel closed his eyes and exhaled through his teeth. You were never supposed to awaken, Lilith. The world doesn't survive when people like you do. People like me? Seraph blood, he rasped. The last of the line that cursed my realm. The last of the Lightborn. Her lips parted in disbelief. I'm not an angel. No, he agreed bitterly. But your soul remembers what your mind does not. The wind whipped between them, sudden and sharp. Lilith clutched her pendant again, and Azazel winced as the light flared. His skin rippled with sparks and hissed. She saw it, saw how it hurt him. And still, she didn't run. Instead, her voice lowered. You're in pain. Azazel turned away fast, his jaw twitching. You're dangerous to me, he growled. More dangerous than anyone alive. Then why don't you leave? Because I can't. His voice cracked, and the silence that followed was heavier than anything he'd felt in centuries. Behind him, her footsteps retreated. Slowly, then stopped. You're not what I expected. Azazel turned slightly, eyes glowing in the dark. And you are exactly what I feared. Then, he vanished. Not in smoke, not in fire, just gone, like the night swallowed him whole. And Lilith stood there, alone, heart pounding, with one truth clearer than any dream she'd ever had. He wasn't leaving, and neither was the fire he'd awakened in her blood. The next morning, Lilith didn't wake to sunlight. She woke to a tremor. Not from the earth, but from inside her. Her skin burned, her heart pounded, and her dreams still clung to her like smoke. Except, she wasn't sure they were dreams anymore. Azazel, she whispered the name like it had always been there, waiting in the corners of her mind. And maybe it had. She sat up in bed slowly, the sheets tangled around her, her nightshirt soaked with sweat. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the pendant still glowing faintly against her chest. It was warm, too warm, and her body, it didn't feel like her own. She stood, but the world swayed. Something stirred in her chest, energy? Fire? Madness? What had he done to her? Lilith barely remembered walking to the cathedral ruins, the same place she'd first sensed him days ago. Something pulled her there. Instinct, curiosity, desperation. She reached the old stones, crumbling with time, wrapped in moss and silence. Azazel, she called, feeling ridiculous. Nothing. The wind rustled. A crow cawed from above. And then, a whisper. Not in her ears. In her mind. You shouldn't have come. She turned sharply. There he was, leaning against one of the ancient archways like he'd been carved from shadow. Arms crossed, hair tousled, eyes burning. Her breath hitched. He looked tired, not in the human way. In the eternal way, like he had carried too many centuries and bled through too many wars. You didn't answer my questions last night, she said. His jaw flexed. You asked questions you don't want answers to. She took a step closer. Try me. His eyes narrowed, but something flickered in them. Respect, maybe. Or warning. He didn't disappear this time. Fine, he said, voice low and dangerous. You want truth? Here it is. He pushed off the wall and stepped toward her. His presence hit her like a wave, hot and magnetic, pulling at something inside her chest. Your blood, he began, circling her slowly, is older than you know. Seraphim and human, light and mortal, it's a combination that should not exist anymore. Should have been cleansed from this realm centuries ago. But don't interrupt. His voice was velvet and ash. She swallowed hard. When your soul stirred, when the seal inside your blood broke, I felt it. Every court in hell felt it. But only I. He paused behind her, his breath brushing the back of her neck. Only I was bound to you. Lilith's pulse thundered. Bound? Fate, he said bitterly. A word even demons choke on. He stepped in front of her now, eyes burning into hers. You are my fated mate, Lilith. She staggered back, heart lurching. That's not possible. Tell that to the thing inside me trying to tear itself free every time you speak. And suddenly, she saw it. The faint black lines crawling up his arms. Like cracks in stone, glowing faintly red beneath the skin. Power leaking out, uncontained. Every part of me wants to protect you, he said quietly. But every part of me also wants to claim you. Lilith's mouth went dry, her voice broke. So what happens if you lose control? His eyes flickered. Then you won't survive, and neither will I. They stood in silence. The truth hung between them, sharp and full of heat. Lilith should have run, should have screamed, but instead, she reached out. Her fingers brushed the skin of his forearm, right over the black crackling marks. And the world shifted. A pulse, a wave of energy. The pendant on her neck flared so brightly it nearly blinded them both. Azazel gasped and fell to his knees. His skin sizzled. His breath turned ragged. "What did you do?" she cried, kneeling beside him. He looked up at her, eyes wide with something primal. "You touched me," he said, voice trembling, "and for the first time in 1,000 years. I felt alive." Azazel didn't speak again for nearly an hour. He sat beneath the arch of the ruined cathedral, back against cold stone, skin still marked with glowing fissures from the moment she touched him. The cracks had stopped spreading, but they hadn't closed. Lilith paced nearby, rubbing her arms for warmth even though the air around Azazel seemed too hot, as if he distorted the world just by existing. "You said I awakened something," she said quietly. "What does that mean?" He looked up at her, jaw tight. "It means you've just become a target. Of who? Every demon who craves your light. Every angel who sees you as an abomination. And worse." He paused, voice lowering, "The court of wrath." "My court." Lilith's brows furrowed. "But you're the prince. Why would they turn on you?" He laughed, short and cold. "Because even a prince can fall. And they've been waiting centuries for a reason." He stood slowly, the fire in his veins crackling under his skin. "I shouldn't be doing this," he muttered. "But I can't let them find you first." "Do what?" He stepped toward her, eyes glowing brighter. "Take you somewhere they can't reach you." "Where?" "My realm." Her breath caught. "Hell?" "No," he said, "not hell, not exactly." He raised his hand. The shadows around them twisted, coiled, and split the air like torn fabric. A portal opened, bleeding firelight and crimson mist. A glimpse of blackened trees. A sky without stars. A landscape carved in ash and glass and blood-red rivers. Her legs trembled. She stepped back. "I can't. You're safer with me," he said, voice hardening. "And we're out of time." Behind them, the ground suddenly split. A cold gust rushed through the air. A crackling noise filled the space. Azazel turned fast. "They're already here." Lilith didn't ask who they were. Because she saw them. Figures emerging from nothing. Cloaked in smoke, eyes hollow and blue. Demons, but not like Azazel. Lesser ones. Raw and savage. Hunters. Azazel roared, the force of it shaking the ruins. "Get behind me." Lilith did, but not before the nearest demon lunged. She saw fangs. Claws. A mouth split open too wide. She screamed. Azazel struck. A wave of flame and force erupted from his body. The demon disintegrated midair, scattered into embers and ash. Two more charged. Azazel met them with a snarl, claws bared. His form blurred, shifted, half unleashed. Wings of black fire unfurled behind him for a split second, and Lilith saw what he truly was. Not a man, not a beast. Something in between. Something terrifying, and beautiful. It was over in minutes. The ruins burned. The air trembled. Azazel turned to her, chest heaving, claws dripping molten black blood. "We're leaving." Lilith stared at him, breath caught in her throat. Then she nodded, and stepped into the portal with him. The other side. It wasn't what she expected. Azazel's realm, this piece of wrath, wasn't just fire and ruin. It was alive. Dark forests lit by floating crimson flames. Mountains that moved like breathing beasts. A blood-red moon hung high, illuminating the glassy riverbanks. The sky cracked with silent lightning. And in the center of it all, a citadel of black stone and bone, glowing with veins of lava. "Welcome to my prison," Azazel muttered. "You live here?" He nodded once. "I rule it. I hate it. But I was born for it." Lilith walked slowly beside him, the air warmer here, humming against her skin. But it wasn't suffocating. It felt like it knew her. "Why does this place feel familiar?" she whispered. Azazel didn't look at her when he answered. "Because part of you belongs here now." She turned to him, heart thudding. "What does that mean?" He finally stopped, faced her. The heat between them rose again, like gravity had shifted. "The moment you touched me, Lilith, you didn't just awaken your power." "What did I awaken?" "The bond," he said, voice rough. "Between us." She didn't understand, until she felt it. A pulse. A pull. Right between her ribs. Like a thread tied to his. Invisible. Burning. And tightening with every second. The Citadel of Wrath was silent at night. No guards patrolled the endless obsidian halls. No torches burned in sconces. Only flickers of living flame that hovered in mid-air like spirits of the damned. Lilith stood alone on a narrow balcony, gazing out at the blood-colored moon. This world was alien and terrifying. But it didn't reject her. It recognized her. That was what scared her the most. Her thoughts were interrupted by a low voice behind her. "You're not sleeping, Azazel." Lilith didn't turn. "Hard to sleep after watching you turn a monster to ash with your bare hands." "It was protecting you. Still terrifying." "I'm not here to comfort you, Lilith. You keep showing up anyway." Silence. Then footsteps. He stepped beside her, arms crossed, body thrumming with heat and tension. Tonight, he wasn't in armor or shadow. He wore simple black, linen tunic, loose at the neck, sleeves rolled to the elbows. But there was nothing soft about him. Azazel radiated danger, power, hunger, and restraint that looked like it hurt. "I can feel it," she whispered. "This pull, it's getting stronger. I know. Is it because I touched you? It's because fate is cruel." She turned to him. "So what now?" He didn't answer, just stared at her. Then, suddenly, he moved. Faster than she could follow. He gripped her wrist and yanked her hand up, holding it palm out between them. Lilith gasped, because a flicker of light sparked at her fingertips. White hot, blinding, it vanished as quickly as it came. "What was that?" "Your power," he said, voice low. Still dormant, but no longer sleeping. She pulled her hand back. "So, I'm glowing now? You're unstable. That's worse." He stepped closer, his breath brushing her cheek. His voice dropped to a near growl. "You don't know what you are yet. But every inch of you is waking up. So teach me." His eyes locked onto hers. "You don't want that. Why?" "Because every time I get near you, Lilith, I barely hold myself together." A pause. Then, he stepped away. Fast, hands clenched, jaw locked. "We train at dawn, and I swear to the gods, if you touch me again." "You'll what?" she challenged softly. He looked at her, not cold, not cruel, desperate. "I'll break." The next morning, they stood in a stone courtyard beneath a weeping sky. The sun didn't rise here. Only a dull red haze hung above them, washing the world in crimson and shadow. Azazel stood across from her, shirtless now, scars crisscrossing his chest, his skin steaming slightly in the cold air. "Focus on your breath," he commanded. Lilith nodded, her fingers tingling again. "Reach inward, pull it out, let the light obey you." She closed her eyes, and then, flare, the power burst from her chest, searing like lightning. A blast of white energy exploded between them, knocking Azazel back a full 10 feet. He hit the wall with a grunt and slumped. "Azazel," she ran to him, kneeling. "I didn't mean, you didn't control it." His voice was tight, but it's impressive. His hand brushed her wrist again, and both of them gasped. The bond snapped between them like a whip of fire. Suddenly, Lilith saw through his eyes. A flash of memory, chains, a battlefield soaked in ash, a throne he never wanted, and her, standing at the center of all of it, glowing like a weapon he was born to wield or be destroyed by. She tore away from him, panting. "What was that?" The bond growing stronger, he rasped. "You're sinking with me. I don't want to sink. I want to survive." Azazel's voice dropped, deadly quiet. "Then stay away from me." But she couldn't, because now, she wasn't just drawn to him. She was connected, and somewhere deep in the black forest beyond the citadel, a second heartbeat echoed. A third party was watching. And they whispered, "The bond is real. The prince is lost. The girl must die." The citadel pulsed with quiet menace. Its stone halls curved like rib cages, holding ancient things inside them, memories, monsters, secrets. Lilith walked alone now, fingers brushing the walls as if they'd answer the questions rising in her chest. She hadn't seen Azazel in hours. Since the blast of light. Since the bond flared. Every time she touched him, it grew. Every time she looked at him too long, her body betrayed her, drawn, burning, unmoored. "I'll break," he'd said. She wasn't sure she wouldn't, too. In the heart of the citadel, someone watched her from the shadows. Eyes that didn't belong in Azazel's realm. Eyes of envy. The demon's name was Thorn, a lieutenant, once loyal to Azazel. But loyalty twisted when it was laced with bitterness. And Thorn had watched long enough to see what Azazel refused to admit. That the prince was weakening. Over a human, Thorn slipped into the corridor, silent as oil. In his hand, a dagger made of nullstone, magic deadening, angel killing, soul ripping. One cut, and she'll burn out like the rest of them. He smiled. Lilith turned the corner, and froze. Thorn stood before her, cloaked in black, eyes gleaming with something feral. "You shouldn't be wandering alone, little light." She stepped back. "Who are you?" "The one saving the realm from a prince who forgot who he is." He lunged. Somewhere else, Azazel's chamber. Azazel doubled over suddenly, clutching his chest. Pain, blinding, ripping, not his, hers. He felt it. The bond screamed inside him. Her terror, her heartbeat, the searing pain as steel grazed her skin. Azazel's eyes turned full red. The fire beneath his skin exploded. The bond snapped tight, and he vanished from the chamber in a roar of shadow and flame. The courtyard. Lilith screamed. The dagger grazed her arm, searing cold. Her pendant sparked violently, trying to shield her, but Thorn was fast, and her control was still too raw. "You don't belong here," he snarled. "You've turned him into a coward. He was our god of war, now he bleeds for a girl." He raised the blade. And then, Azazel struck. A blast of raw wrath cracked through the sky. Flames shot down from nowhere, engulfing the stones, blasting Thorn backward into the wall. Azazel stood in the smoke, eyes glowing like two suns in a blood-stained storm. His body burned with power. Horns curled from his skull. Wings of black flame exploded from his back. And his voice, inhuman, dark and thunderous, shook the world. "You touched what's mine." Thorn tried to run. He didn't make it 3 steps. Azazel's claws pierced his chest, burning straight through. Thorn's scream never finished before he was reduced to ash. The silence after was unbearable. Lilith stared, and Azazel turned to her, still panting, still burning. Still, changing. His skin was cracking, his control slipping. "Lilith," he rasped, voice layered with shadow. "Don't come closer. I can't." But she did, even trembling, even bleeding. She stepped forward and touched his chest. The instant her palm met his skin, the fire receded. His wings folded, his fangs shrank, his breath calmed. Her presence, her light, was the only thing that kept the monster from consuming him whole. "You felt me," she whispered. "Through the bond." He closed his eyes. "I feel everything." He collapsed to his knees in front of her, hands buried in his hair, chest heaving with rage and shame. "I killed him. He tried to kill me. And still, this is what I become when you're hurt. You became my shield." She knelt with him. "I'm not afraid of your wrath, Azazel." His eyes met hers, burned with war, sorrow, and something far more dangerous. "Then you're going to destroy me." The last time Azazel brought someone to his throne, it was to watch them burn. Today, he brought her. Lilith walked beside him in silence, her torn sleeve still soaked with blood. The deep-cut thorn gave her pulsed faintly beneath a glowing band Azazel had wrapped around her arm, imbued with protective fire. She didn't ask where they were going. She didn't need to. The massive obsidian gates loomed before them, carved with runes older than light. They shimmered with fury. "Are you ready?" Azazel asked, voice quieter than usual. Lilith looked up at him, unsure whether she was meant to answer truthfully. "No." A faint twitch at the corner of his mouth. Almost a smile. "Stay close. Don't speak unless I tell you to. They'll test you. They'll want to break you. And you? I'll break them first." The gates groaned open. The court of wrath. The throne hall was alive. Every step they took echoed off walls made of molten black rock. Columns of flame coiled upward toward a ceiling lost in smoke. Around the edges of the room stood the high nobles of wrath, demons of power, pride, and ancient grudges. Some wore armor. Some wore bones. All wore the same expression when they saw her. Disgust. Lilith felt it immediately. The heat of their glares, the whispered venom sliding like oil through the room. Immortal? No, she glows. Angel blood. What is he thinking? He's lost. Azazel walked with slow, deliberate steps, head high, every inch the prince of a court born from flame and war. He reached the throne at the end of the hall, a spiked monstrosity carved from volcanic obsidian, still hot to the touch. He turned. Lilith stood slightly behind him, breath tight in her chest. "You brought the Lightborn here?" one noble hissed. "The seraph blood who triggered the seal?" "Yes," Azazel said simply. "You've brought danger into our realm. You've weakened yourself. You nearly tore the citadel apart for her. And I would do it again." A murmur rippled through the room like static. Lilith stared at him. He hadn't looked back at her once. But he was speaking for her. "You owe us an explanation," another snarled. "Why keep her alive?" Azazel's voice rumbled. "Because she is mine." Gasps. Some stepped back in disbelief. "You claim her?" "I don't just claim her." He turned slowly to face them all. "I am bound to her." A full silence dropped like a blade. "Fated," one of the older nobles whispered. "That hasn't happened in 1,000 years," Azazel finished. "I know." He stepped down from the throne steps and finally turned to Lilith. "Come here," he said softly. She moved forward. He offered his hand. She took it. The moment her fingers slid into his, the hall lit. A glow radiated from between them, gold from her, red from him, like two opposite forces locked together by something older than creation. Gasps, shouts, and then, screaming. One of the nobles collapsed, clutching their head. The bond had pushed against them, warned them, burned them. Lilith blinked, stunned. Azazel held her hand tighter. "Let this court bear witness," he said coldly. "She is under my protection. my name, my power. Anyone who touches her again. He looked down at the noble writhing in pain. Will beg for the death I deny them. Later that night, the throne hall emptied, the flames calmed. Azazel sat at the edge of a balcony high above the citadel, shirt discarded, wounds faintly glowing with dark fire. Lilith approached from behind. That was reckless. It was necessary. They hate me. They feared you. That's better. She sat beside him. Is the bond always like this? She asked quietly. This intensity? Azazel didn't look at her. No, this is what happens when a demon of wrath is bound to something he can't have. You already have me, she whispered. He turned then, eyes dark, voice soft. Say that again, and I'll lose control. Lilith's heart pounded, then lose it. The room was carved into the cliffs behind the citadel, half stone, half shadow. A massive wall of glass overlooked the red-lit abyss below, the molten valleys of Wrath's realm pulsing like a sleeping beast. Lilith stood at the edge, arms crossed, barefoot on warm black stone. Her mind spun, her skin burned, and the bond between her and Azazel had become unbearable. He watched her from the doorway. He hadn't spoken since the throne room. Not when they'd walked back. Not when the court had gone silent behind them. Not even when she'd bled again, just a little, from the cut thorn left. He'd only watched her bind it with a scrap of her shirt, his jaw tight, his claws twitching. Now, his voice was low. Careful, a tether pulled too tight. Your scent is driving me insane. Lilith turned slowly. That's a hell of a thing to say to someone standing on the edge of a cliff. A twitch of his lips. The barest smirk. You're the one who stepped into my world. Maybe I wanted to see what would happen. You already know what'll happen if I touch you. Lilith stepped closer. Then touch me. Azazel's breath hitched. Lilith, I'm not afraid of you. You should be. You keep saying that, she whispered, now inches from him. But you never let go of control. Even when I'm bleeding, even when I'm burning, you hold back. Why? His hands trembled at his sides. Because if I stop holding back, I don't take, he said roughly. I consume. Her heart pounded, but she didn't move away. Instead, she reached for his hand. This time, he didn't stop her. Their fingers touched, and the world exploded, not in flames, in sensation. The bond between them flared like wildfire, unchained. His power surged toward her, dark, hot, vast, and hers answered. Light burst from her chest like a star, colliding with his fire in a storm of impossible heat and color. Azazel's claws vanished. His wings flickered out of existence. For the first time in his long, cursed life, he was just a man. And he dropped to his knees before her. I don't deserve this, he breathed. Lilith touched his face, tilting it up toward hers. You don't get to decide what I give you. His eyes darkened, and this time, when his lips touched hers, it wasn't a war. It was surrender. The bond sealed. It wasn't soft. It was raw. Azazel kissed like he had been starved for centuries. Like she was the only thing that had ever soothed the burn in his soul. Lilith clung to him, fire blooming in her veins. Her light surged again, wrapping around him. Containing him, claiming him. Clothes vanished in flickers of heat and shadow. Skin to skin, flame to flame. When he entered her, the bond snapped tight like a vow. Yours, mine, ours. There was no room left for fear. Only hunger, only fire, only the truth that she had never belonged to the world above. And he had never belonged to the hell below. Because they were meant to burn together. After, they lay tangled in silken sheets stolen from old kingdoms. Azazel's breathing was shallow, his face calm for once. The cracks in his skin were gone. Lilith traced a mark over his chest, a scar in the shape of a blade. What gave you this? An angel, he murmured. The last one who tried to stop me from claiming what was mine. Did you kill him? No, I made him watch me survive. She smiled, but then her fingers stopped. Her breath caught, and the mark under her collarbone, the one she was born with, began to glow. Azazel shot upright. Lilith, what's happening? She clutched her chest. Pain blossomed, sharp, ancient, familiar. A voice echoed in her mind. The bond has awakened the seal of light. She is no longer just Seraph born. She is the key. Azazel grabbed her shoulders. His eyes widened. They were never after you just because you were rare. His voice dropped, horrified. They were after you, because your blood opens the gate between worlds. Lilith looked up at him. And now they know we've bound. They didn't run this time. No more hiding in forgotten places. No more pretending they weren't changing the world by loving each other. Lilith and Azazel walked into the final altar of the gods, hand in hand, a demon in the flame. The last god awaited them, the mirror-eyed one, who had seen every version of them that never happened. You don't belong, the god hissed. You weren't meant to exist like this. Lilith stepped forward, eyes glowing, hair alive with fire that had no color. No limit. I wasn't meant to. I chose to. And then she did the one thing gods were never prepared for. She forgave them, not for them, for herself, so she could leave the story behind. The mirror cracked, the prophecy died, and the world finally belonged to itself again. They built no kingdom, no throne. Lilith and Azazel left the ruins of the divine behind and went where no god could follow, a place untouched by fate. There, they grew older, softer, stranger. They danced in the rain, fought sometimes, made up by firelight, held each other when memories screamed, and still chose each other every time. One night, many years later, Azazel asked her, "Do you ever regret not becoming a goddess?" Lilith smiled, pressing her forehead to his. "No, I became something rarer." "What's that?" "Free." Long after they were gone, no one worshipped Lilith. They remembered her, and every time someone said no when the world told them to stay small. Every time someone chose love instead of fear. Every time someone burned the script and wrote their own life. Lilith lived again, because she had become more than a name. She had become a beginning.